You're listening to the Blind Tiger Record Club podcast, where we champion music of all genres, and we believe vinyl is king.
Vinyl is king.
Welcome back to the Blind Tiger Record Club on air. It's great to be with you all again, and thank you for joining us tonight on the radio broadcast on Lightning 100, or if you're listening to the recast on your favorite podcast platform. I'm David Williams, and I'm here with Rudy Newman.
Hey, everybody.
We've got no Kevin Lee this week. He's out of town and will not be with us today, but he'll be back for all of our December shows. If we decide to keep him, right, Rudy?
Yeah. I think he's filling in on a Neil Diamond Las Vegas residency right now.
Playing keys?
I think he's doing the keys.
Rudy and I just went to the Rustin Kelly show for his Shape and Destroy tour.
Yes, finally after releasing the record a year ago.
Yeah, he hadn't been able to tour it yet, and he did 2 sold-out nights at the Ryman.
We caught night 2.
Yeah, Kelly was our singer-songwriter record of the month in September of 2020. It was also a B.T.R.C. must-hear for that year, and we had it at number 4 on our annual Top 20 Countdown show that we do at the end of every year. We actually have this year's show coming up in a few weeks, we could believe it or not, for another end-of-year countdown.
Yep.
Anyway, the show was incredible.
Yes, amazing show. We got to see Lynn and Stella come out and do a little duet with Rustin on a new song that is not, we've never heard before or whatever. And Lynn and Stella from Nashville, if you've ever seen the show. She was amazing. The people that went to the show the night before us got to see Jason Isbell come out and sing and play guitar. I can't remember what the song was, but...
And his dad was on slide guitar, and his sister was doing background vocals. It was just a really, really great show, but it was so... just so tight. Like the band was so good.
And this was the second time I've seen him, and they sounded that. I mean, obviously at the Ryman, you're not gonna show up ready to not play. But like, dude, they crushed it both times I've seen him, and like the Ryman show was no exception.
Yeah, we covered both Shape and Destroy as well as his previous album Dying Star on this show. A couple years before that, I think it was like in 2018. So it was amazing to see him in a room like the Ryman, and I think he went clean. So it was full and
it was incredible.
Just a lot of energy. It was just a really fun show. So if you haven't ever seen Rustin Kelly and you see he's coming around sometime in 2022, you definitely need to put that on your short list of shows to catch. Last show we did right after Halloween, and I feel like we didn't even acknowledge that Halloween happened.
Yeah, and I mean, that's probably my number 1 or number 2 holiday every year. Like, I don't know why, but I just love seeing, or the whole month of scary movies and seeing people get dressed up.
Yeah, I'm still trying to drag out that part of it.
Yeah, and then the chocolate candy, and everything, that part of it is not terrible either. So,
well, one thing that was interesting about this year's Halloween is that Michael Jackson was back on the charts with Thriller. Michael Jackson has now placed a solo song in the Hot 100's top 20 in 6 consecutive decades because of this Halloween. So his song Thriller returned. It went all the way to 19 on the Hot 100 over Halloween weekend, marking its highest placement since its original chart run in 84. Where it peaked at number 4. And so just over this Halloween week, it tallied 12.9 million streams, 8.2 million radio airplay impressions, 6,300 downloads. It was just incredible to see a song that old.
Did you listen to it at all?
I would listen to it every Halloween.
I'm saying, did you listen to it? I did not. And I'm like, every day that I was seeing that, I was like, I got to go listen to Thriller again. And I never did. So now I'm just going to do it in November.
Well, I mean, that song, for me, I remember when MTV used to do world premieres of videos, and I remember going to my friend's house because this was before everybody even had cable. It wasn't like everybody had cable.
Yeah, do you know what year that video came out? 89?
It was 84.
84, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
And so one of my friends had it, and I remember having popcorn and waiting for that world premiere MTV logo to come up because they had, advertised that this video was coming for a month.
Yeah.
And so, and it was an event. It was not just, hey, new video's out. Have you seen it?
No, this was like a freaking like an actual legit
Could
Hollywood
you imagine
premiere,
like something like that now?
of
Like
an actual
I can't.
film.
Yeah.
No, there hasn't been anything like it since, I feel like. And as a kid, I mean, I wasn't even alive in 1984, but like I saw that video probably for the first time when I was like 5, 6, 7, around the early 90s. Terrifying. Terrifying. But also the funkiest, most terrifying song you've ever heard.
Well, I think Halloween is going to always be kind of that song, and it's always going to just kind of pop back up, even if it's not. I mean, it's played year round, really. But
he gets like a nice little evergreen every time, like Mariah does.
Well, it's not the only
Christmas.
song. Another one that came back on this year was Bobby Boris Pickett and the Crypt Kickers. They re-entered the chart with Monster Mash. And then Ray Parker Jr., of course, with Ghostbusters.
Yes.
I
think we're getting more into nostalgia.
Yeah.
I think there's just this massive nostalgia movement right now.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because the other thing that one other song that popped in that has not, those other songs, they kind of, surge every year on Halloween.
Sure.
But one that started getting played this year was Somebody's Watching Me by Rockwell. And that re-entered the chart. Let's see, it peaked at number 2 in 84, and it reached number 1. It couldn't reach number 1 because Van Halen's Jump and then Kenny Loggins' Footloose had blocked it.
Oh, man. Kenny Loggins.
Yeah, but so it hasn't been in the chart since that time period until this year for Halloween. So,
Michael Jackson didn't sing that? Am I crazy? Somebody's Watching Me?
No, that's Rockwell.
Does he sound like Michael Jackson?
So all you artists out there that are listening, it might not be a bad idea to kind of cut a
novelty track.
Song. Yeah.
Yeah. But like actually do a really good one, because it can pay dividends.
Rustin Kelly had the Halloween EP, and he played Black Magic at the show. Maybe he could do a faster version of that, and then maybe start getting that every year.
Yep.
So
man, that one went over really well too.
Rustin,
Black
if you're
Magic
listening, you've already got one in the can. You need to start.
Yep.
Well, speaking of Halloween, this is the last thing I'll say about this holiday for this year. But Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters are going to appear in a movie called Studio 666. It comes out in February.
Wow.
It's a horror comedy. It's going to open up in 2,000 theaters. So, I mean, it's a full-blown release.
Very cool.
But it was shot in the same house where the band recorded the Minutes to Midnight album.
Oh, wow. Which is one of their houses, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
The official press release says that in Studio 666, the legendary rock band Foo Fighters move into an Encino mansion steeped in grisly rock and roll history to record their much-anticipated 10th album. Once in the house, Dave Grohl finds himself grappling with supernatural forces that threaten both the completion of the album and the lives of the band.
Oh, yeah.
So
that sounds great.
Yeah, so if you want your...
If it's got good writing, I'm sure it's going to be excellent.
Well, so just look for that in February. But for tonight, we're going to be discussing our November Spotlight album and several new store editions. So, this week's a little different for us because most of the records we are discussing tonight are reissues and almost...
You've probably heard a couple
in
of
the
these.
classic rock category. That being said, we do have some great new releases to tell you about as well.
Somehow border on classic rock sound. Isn't that crazy?
That's true. Yes, there is some tie-in there. So what is a Spotlight album? Well, our first show of every month is a discussion on albums in the Blind Tiger Record Club's Record of the Month program. At Blind Tiger Record Club, you join by picking one of the 4 styles, which include singer-songwriter, rock and alternative, jazz, soul, and blues, and classics. And once you join, you automatically get shipped that style that you've chosen unless you log in and switch to another styles. And, one of the taglines that we always use with our advertising and everything is your vinyl, your choice. So you can always switch to any style every month, which means there are always at least 4 options a month for you to choose from. And these are all new releases or reissues that have come out in the last 30 to 60 days. Most are a limited edition or a special variant of some kind. Some are really special vinyl that is autographed or comes with something special directly from the artist or label, just different things like that. But a club membership is the best way to secure all this new music on vinyl each month because a lot of them really are hard to find after release. But the Spotlight album that we're discussing tonight is one album that we select each month because we think it's a very strong release, but for whatever reason, it's not part of our club program. This means that you do not have to be a member to purchase it from us, and the other new store editions that we're talking about tonight are also available in the store, and anyone can get those records as well. Now, membership will allow you to get free shipping along with many other perks, so we highly recommend joining, but tonight's, a member-free zone.
Yeah.
So, simply You do not need a membership to get any of these titles that we discussed tonight.
So you just need to be interested, love music, and
having a turntable would help.
Yeah, having a turntable would definitely help.
Yeah. So you're welcome to shop the thousands of titles in the record store as well. So, this is really the best way you can support this show, by the way, is just simply becoming a member or shopping at the B.T.R.C. record store. It not only guarantees you great new release vinyl, but it helps us produce the show and keep all of you in the know on the best new releases. So just go to blindtackerrecordclub.com. You can see how to become a member. There are style descriptions and instructions for how the club works. Or you can just shop in our store and browse the incredible vinyl available through Blind Tacker Record Club. It's actually a great time to visit Blind Tacker Record Club, by the way, because we are doing Black Friday sales every Friday from now until Black Friday.
Yeah.
So why wait until the end of the month?
There's no reason.
That's right.
You want it now, we got it now.
So just between now and December, we're going to be running sales all the way really through Christmas. So check out the sale at blindtackerrecordclub.com. All right, let's get to the show. Let's drop the needle and take a quick listen to the Blind Tacker Record Club's November Spotlight album in new store editions.
Banging on a drum, you turn me loose. Maybe I'm the living proof.
On October 29th, The War on Drugs released the band's fifth studio album titled I Don't Live Here Anymore on Atlantic Records. This is the follow-up to the Philadelphia six-piece, very successful 2017 release, A Deeper Understanding. That album produced two charting singles at AAA radio. Holding On went number 3, and Pain, which was the real breakout single, went number 1. It was the band's first, actually, that ever went number 1. The album also won Best Rock Album at the 60th Grammy Awards. So they're coming off, definitely the band's biggest release to date.
Most critical acclaim.
Big album for anyone, really.
Absolutely.
The first song released to retail to set up the new album was the track that we played at the opening titled Living Proof. And it's a well-crafted song. It's pensive, and it really builds.
Kind
like
of
it's
a slow burn.
Yeah. And if you get far enough into that song, about 3 minutes in, it's really just gets bigger and bigger.
It's built up to the full. Yeah,
I actually really like that track. It's kind of one of those things when you first hear it, you go, "Hey, it's a good song." But the more that I've lived with this album, like that, it's becoming one of the songs I like the most off the record.
Yeah.
Another retail single off the album that they released early is a track called Change. This was actually the last single that they released right before the album dropped. It's a very, very strong song structurally as well. This is Change.
I've been running from the white light to try and get to you. Tell me everything that you need. I've been trying so hard, ain't got no time to lose. Tell me anything that you need to open the door to desperate men. Easily could run from the start. When you're falling,
It's pretty cool hearing a song like that kind of incorporate both where you can hear like the Tom Petty, Traveling Wilburys, like on the guitar tones, but also like this complete juxtaposition of just like the 80s alternative pop, punk type new wave. Not new wave itself, but like just all that whole thing. Like it feels very like inclusive of a lot of different styles.
Yeah, and we've talked about a lot of artists over the last couple of years that have kind of incorporated some of those influences into the music, and they've done it really well. But I have to say, like, I'm not sure that any of them have done them as well as the War on Drugs.
As Adam and his crew, most definitely. Yeah,
so lyrically, that song, is about the need for us to constantly change and grow as people. The lead singer and frontman is Adam Granduciel. And he was interviewed by NME about this song, and he said, I think there's an affirmation, almost an understanding you're not perfect. Nobody is. You understand that, and you may be flawed, but you also understand what is true and important at the end of the day. Only certain things really matter. And also, I really like the piano on that track as well. Like when you get into the part where the piano melody is laid down, it's done in the way that reminds me almost of like a Bruce Hornsby or something, the way that the piano is incorporated into that track. The album's co-produced by Granduciel and Sean Everett. Everett was the mix engineer for the last album, A Deeper Understanding. So he kind of stepped up his presence on this record. He's produced bands like The Killers. He's produced and mixed on the band's last 2 albums. He also produced Cold War Kids, Devon Gilfillian. On the mix side, he's been pretty sought after for the last 3 or 4 years, mixing albums like Casey Musgraves, Vampire Weekend, their big, last album, which I think that was nominated for a Grammy. Hozier, Foxygen, Kurt Vile, Houndmouth, who we'll be talking about later tonight. Yeah. Beck, Big Thief, Weezer, just many guys. Like he's kind of been, for a lot of guys in this, indie yet still very commercial pop,
like the
bands.
Indie, like the most popular of them all, and especially with like one of, I guess, his most like popular projects, Alabama Shakes, Sound and Color.
Yeah,
which is one that he really, I guess that's one that Adam from the War on Drugs kind of like heard and knew that he wanted to work with Sean Everett because of the crazy ways that he works on engineering and mixing and stuff.
Well, he knows how to produce and mix commercial music, that's for sure. But,
absolutely.
But because he's working with so many of these indie rock acts, I think he's been really smart. Well, it's one of those things where like a circle of musicians starts, like exactly what you said, like they'll hear him on an album that resonates with them, and then they want to work with that person.
Because you know who else is in that circle? Blake Mills.
Yeah.
And Tony Berg.
Yep.
And those are people that we talk about pretty much weekly, on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis here.
So I Don't Live Here Anymore peaked at number 22 on the Billboard 200. It was number 6 on the UK's OCC. And it was number 2 on Billboard's top alternative albums and number 3 on the top rock albums. So this album's already teed up to be one of their most successful albums.
It's performing really well.
Yeah, whether it pulls some Grammy attention again, like the last album is yet to be seen. But I think it's, if they have a lot of success at radio, it definitely will be in consideration. And they're off to a good start. The first radio single is now the band's second number 1. It's the title track off the record, I Don't Live Here Anymore. It features Jess Wolfe and Holly Lasik from the band Lucius.
You probably heard us talk about them too.
Yeah, with their own background vocals. And so this is I Don't Live Here Anymore.
Think about the old days, babe. You're always on my mind. I know it ain't like I remember. I guess my memories run wild. Like when we went to see Bob Dylan. We danced to Desolation Road. But I don't live here anymore. But I got no place to go. Beating like a heart, I'm gonna walk through every doorway I can stop. I need some time, I need control, I need your love. I wanna find out everything I need to know. I'm gonna say everything that there is to say. Although you've taken everything I need away, I'm gonna make it to the place I need to go. We're all just walking through this darkness on our own.
So Wolf and Lasik of Lucius appear on a lot of albums, as you were mentioning, and, and they always seem to add a lot. I mean, they were featured on Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats Tearing at the Seam, which was in our program. They were also featured on Grace Potter's Daylight album, which was also in our Record of the Month program.
Yep. I saw Grace Potter a couple months ago, and she mentioned something about writing that song with them, and I cannot remember what she said, but it was just very cool.
In their circle, they just seem to be really respected because they're pulled in a lot on these background vocals and on writing sessions and things like that.
Yeah, probably the most in-demand vocal.
Oh, they even recently appeared on a single with the Black Pumas.
Nice.
So, Rolling Stone called this song pure Bob Dylan fan fiction, which I thought was hilarious because there really are references to Dylan all over
the Desolation Row.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
So, Grand Dussel, he's made no secret about the fact that he has classic rock heroes like Dylan and Springsteen and Petty and all that, and you hear it all in this record.
Not to mention that his son's name is Bruce, named after the boss.
Yeah, this is a great band. It's another solid album. The album production on this is huge. I mean, if you're kind of
a headphone listener,
or just like even if you're in music and you really pay attention to production, like this album sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that this one will get as much attention as the last album did as it goes on. I mean, it's just come out, but I think it's going to get a lot of attention on the end of year list, and I think going into next year, people will be looking at it for the Grammys, especially if they get another single that does as well as this first one did. So, we have this available in a limited edition translucent blue vinyl.
Ooh.
We also have this available on cassette. We have cassettes now at Blind Tiger.
Ooh, what? Cassettes, you say?
Yep, cassettes. And along with this album, we have A Deeper Understanding on black vinyl. We have Wagon Wheel Blues on a limited edition opaque blue vinyl. And the band's live album, Live Drugs, is in translucent purple. It's a double vinyl LP.
We also we have one less copy of each of those because I'm grabbing one before we go home tonight.
You heard it, folks.
Sorry.
You better log on today. 85 Supply is the official show sponsor for both the podcast and on air. 85 Supply is a full-service nationwide merch company. They specialize in screen printing, embroidery, logistics, graphic design, and custom-branded promotional products. From printed T-shirts to the most custom products available, 85 Supply offers over 500,000 products to customize. 85 Supply is trusted by some of the largest brands in the nation, from organizations like MTV, LaCroix Sparkling Water, Spotify, and more, including the Blind Tiger Record Club. All the club's merch is designed, printed, and manufactured by 85 Supply. They make the process so easy. I give them ideas. They work with me to bring the vision to life, and then we order them and get them made. Whether it's a touring rock band, an artist, or an event, an organization, or a podcast and radio show like us, we highly recommend reaching out to our friends at 85 Supply for your next project that needs branded product. Go to 85supply.com or email info@85supply.com to get started. You can also get 5% off your first order. Simply mention Blind Tiger Record Club via email or over the phone with your rep. No coupon codes or anything to remember. Just tell them Blind Tiger Record Club sent you, and you get 5% off your entire first order. Once again, visit 85supply.com or email info@85supply.com to get started on your next merch product.
Words are flowing out like endless rain into a paper cup. They slither wildly as as they slip away across the universe. Pools of sorrow, waves of joy are drifting through my opened mind, possessing and caressing me.
On May 8th, 1970, the Beatles released the band's 12th and final album a month after the band announced their breakup. Almost.
What?
It was released at the same time as the feature-length film of the same name. It's the album Let It Be, and Apple and Capitol Records on October 15th released a new limited edition pressing 50 years after the album's original release. I mean, you heard that right, 50 years.
50 years.
This new version has been newly mixed by Giles Martin and Sam O'Kell. The new stereo mix is guided by the original that was reproduced for disc when they were, putting all this music on CD by Phil Spector, and it's sourced directly from the original Performance 8-track tapes. The album, was obviously shrouded by the breakup of the band when it came out.
There's just a lot of history and backstory to this album too, like
even
mixing and engineering.
Even with all of that craziness that was surrounding it at the time, the album still went number one on the Billboard 200. It was number one on the UK's OCC. Well, really, it was number one in almost every market.
So it goes number one after they break up.
Yes. The reissue that they just put out just went number 5 on the Billboard 200 and number 2 in the UK. So
we were talking about feeling like we were in the alternate reality last week or a couple weeks ago when we were doing this because of all the artists that were on the top of the charts right now.
Well, the track we played at the beginning of the segment is Across the Universe, and it features Lennon on vocal. It had been recorded earlier and appeared on a charity compilation in 1969 called No One's Gonna Change Our World.
Oh.
They tweaked that track for the Let It Be album. And when they were originally making this album, John Lennon had actually already left the band before it was completed. So the remaining members actually completed the album without him. They even cut 2 more tracks. One is the incredible song I Me Mine. And the second song that they cut is a track that you all know. It's the title track, Let It Be. It went number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. And this is Let It Be.
When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And in my hour of darkness, she is standing right in front of me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. And when the broken-hearted people living in the world agree, there will be an answer, let it be. For though they may be parted, there is still a chance that they will see. There will be an answer, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Yeah, there will be an answer, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be.
It is kind of amazing when you know the history that song was cut after Lennon left.
Yeah. Bizarre to know, but also like I guess it just kind of makes sense with this band and their tumultuous, history.
Well, the album production credit is given to Phil Spector, But in some ways, he did kind of piece together this album because some of them had earlier recorded material, like the Across the Universe that was played by Lennon.
Yes.
And then the new recorded sessions like Let It Be.
Yeah.
The album also featured hit songs Get Back and then The Long and Winding Road. So if you want to dig deeper into this time of the Beatles' recording career, Peter Jackson just directed a 3-part documentary series called The Beatles Get Back. It covers the making of the Let It Be album.
Yeah. Kind of a reimagining of the whole thing, I think, is what I read.
Well, I mean, it even pulls, I know it pulls a lot of video footage from even the Let It Be movie and kind of just digs into a lot of this stuff that we're just kind of, brushing over quickly. But it's really interesting that this album not only came together, but that it still did well. And, this is their last record. There have been several versions of this album released through the years. Paul McCartney released a version called Let It Be Naked in 2003. I remember when that came out. It was a real big deal at the time. And that was him trying to get a closer to the artistic, I guess, vision that the band had for it at the time. That release went number 5 on Billboard 200. This new reissue is getting the album to the cleanest and I guess most accurate version from the original recordings, like the way that they kind of did it from a production standpoint. And you can start to see a pattern here that each new version that they've put out goes right back into the top 10 on the Billboard 200.
Yeah, which is funny. But ultimately, I guess the issue is that they just could not decide on a mix.
For some of this stuff, that's right.
Multiple engineers, the Phil Spector with the Wall of Sound, adding the strings to certain, or string arrangements to certain songs. McCartney didn't like that.
Yeah.
And he was vocal about it. So
which
that's
is why he did Naked.
Let It Be Naked.
That's right.
And so, yeah.
Well, you can also get this in a super deluxe version. It has 27 unreleased session recordings.
Yeah, you'll get to hear the Glenn Johns mixed version, and
right.
Glenn Johns is a super popular English, mixer engineer back in the day. He invented the Glenn Johns method of overhead miking drum sets or whatever. But they're so raw, it's no wonder that they went back and redid them.
Well, there's one of the LPs in that set is there's an EP. One of the 12 inches is an EP 4-track. Comes from the 4-track for Let It Be. So there's also in 1969 unreleased 14-track Get Back stereo LP mix, like you said, by Glenn Johns. There's a 100-page hardback book with an intro by Paul McCartney. It has track-by-track recording information. It has many unseen photos, notes, and more. It's in a big slipcase box set that houses all 4 LPs, the 12-inch EP, and the hardbound book. So it's an amazing set. We have that in the store, so go check it out. Obviously, there are several must-have Beatle albums for any album collection, but historically, I think this is a major placeholder as it's the end of one of the biggest, if not the biggest band of all time. We also have this in a limited edition 180-gram audiophile vinyl, as well as that super deluxe version that I mentioned, which would be a hell of a Christmas gift for any Beatles fans.
Absolutely.
We have several other Beatle albums, including a limited edition 4LP version of the White Album, which is another must-have. There's an album that came out right before this. We also have an incredible book, Beatles Album by Album, The Band and Their Music, by insiders, experts, and eyewitnesses. It's a hardcover. Another great, Christmas gift for the music lover in your life. So check all that out in the store. On November 4th, the band Houndmouth released their 4th studio album, Good For You, on Dual Tone Records. This album is produced by a producer that keeps coming up on this show, Brad Cook. As a matter of fact, we just mentioned him on the last show because he produced the November Jazz, Soul, and Blues Record of the Month, Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats, The Future. As we mentioned on that last show, he's also produced artists like Waxahachie, Bruce Hornsby, Bon Iver,
His Golden
Big Red
Messenger,
Machine, many more. So Houndmouth brought in Cook to work on Good For You, and as usual, he just did an amazing job. If you're not familiar with Houndmouth, they had a couple of charting singles off the band's second release in 2015. It's an album titled Little Neon Limelight. The song Say It went number 13 on Billboard's AAA chart, and the song Sedona, which was really the band's big breakout song, it topped the chart at number 1. The last album didn't produce a radio single, but the first release off this album did go to AAA radio in October, and it peaked at number 28. And that is the song that we're about to play for you. It's the song titled Las Vegas.
You're back in time for the heat. It feels just like you're 17. Maybe you could get a lift from the uptown boys you used to run with. You wore makeup 3 days straight. Half a Xanax with a holiday. By the look on your face, you're rolling H the hard way. We came here to win, we didn't come for the entertainment. Oh, I believe in Las Vegas, city of plastic. It's so real, it's dangerous.
This album is much more mellow, kind of roots-based and acoustic than the last album.
This super felt like the return to like the old albums sound, and like this feels like it's a return to the From the Hills Below the City, their earlier one, and then Little Neon Limelight.
and I think this is why it's a really strong release for the band. This was recorded in a house that they have in Indiana that was built in the 1850s, and Brad Cook, who is always kind of a less is more styled producer. That combination with the band, plus they brought in John Ashley for the mix, and Ashley's done engineer work with the War on Drugs, His Golden Messenger, several other bands. But this was a really nice return to, I think, a sound that really works for this band.
Yeah, it feels like a really good example of what they're fully capable of.
Yeah.
Like if you're incorporating that older album, the 2018 album Golden Age, this is like a nice marriage of all those sounds. Yeah,
it's minimalistic on production, and it really allows the strength of storytelling and the vocals to stand out. And so I, highly recommend this record. It's available on standard vinyl. On August 24th, 1981, the Rolling Stones released the band's 18th studio album, Tattoo You, on Rolling Stone Records via EMI. On October 22nd of 2021, Interscope Records released the 40th anniversary edition of Tattoo You. So the album peaked at number 1 on the Billboard 200 and number 2 on the UK's OCC when it came out in 81.
Wow.
It charted in every market in the world at either number 1, number 2, or number 3, except for Japan, where it peaked at number 8. So that was like literally its lowest chart position. And it's had some staying power in the US as well. It was number 22 on the year-end Billboard 200 chart in 1981. It charted all the way through 1982. And the Billboard 200 year-end chart in 82, it was at number 11. So it actually went up over the year as it continued to just get played. And a lot of that, has to do with the big single off this record.
I was going to say that.
But, the album is a follow-up to the band's 1980 release, Emotional Rescue. And the band had a lot of personal issues wrapped around this, album, from infighting to a really grueling tour schedule that had gone on for years. So when it came time to track a new album, they didn't really want to sit down as a group and create a new record. And so what they ended up doing was going back to previous unused recordings. Some were more than a decade old. They picked through all the tracks and then grabbed the ones that they wanted to revive and then finished each song for this record. Only a couple were already finished. So most of the unfinished fragments that the band, picked, they had to then come in and, fully put them together for this record. So it really is a different album.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how successful it still was for these guys. This is the 40th anniversary reissue. And this issue just peaked at number 22 on the Billboard 200 and number 7 in the UK. So just like the Beatles album, we're seeing it, right back in the charts. Yep. The album is multi-platinum. It was certified 4 times platinum in the U.S. alone. The album has Rolling Stone standards like Hang Fire. The track we played at the opening is Waiting on a Friend. That features a sax solo, by the way.
Sonny Rollins.
Yep, jazz giant Sonny Rollins.
The master tenor saxophonist.
But if it was the album's opening track that made this one of the Rolling Stones' standout albums. Start Me Up went number 2 on the Hot 100. It was number 1 on Mainstream Rock and number 24 on Billboard's greatest all-time mainstream rock songs. It has over 370 million streams on Spotify alone. This is the Rolling Stone classic, Start Me Up. So Start Me Up was originally tracked for the recording session of 1978's Some Girls album. It was titled Never Stop, and it was abandoned after multiple takes that the band didn't like. It actually started as a reggae-style song, and on those previous recordings, I've read that they've had upwards between 40 and 50 versions of this song, all in that reggae style.
See, and I haven't found that. I haven't looked super hard, but I haven't heard the reggae version yet.
Well, among all those cuts, there was one rock style version, and that is what became
the one.
Start Me Up.
that riff.
Yeah.
I mean, iconic for the rest of your life.
And this was such a rock standard at radio in 81 and 82. I don't think a day went by where I didn't hear this song played.
Yeah. And then, of course, in the following years, like, it becomes a massive sports stadium anthem. Like, I remember
classic
hearing it for
rock,
the first time at
sync
Kansas
placements,
City Chiefs Stadium.
Just all over the place. This was the last really big single for the Rolling Stones on the Hot 100 and the OCC. But yet it's still one of the most well-known songs by this band. Tattoo You was ranked number 34 on the Rolling Stones 1989 list of the 100 greatest albums of the 1980s. It was number 211 on the 2003 version and 213 on the revised 2012 list of the Rolling Stones greatest albums of all time, which is a list, we look at a lot. And now they've had 3 versions of that out, but every time this album is on it. This is one of the biggest bands of all time. The Rolling Stones is one of the best-selling bands of all time. They have an estimated record sales of over 240 million worldwide.
Ooh.
They've won 3 Grammy Awards. They have a Lifetime Grammy Achievement Award. They were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in '89, the UK Music Hall of Fame in '04. In 2019, Billboard magazine ranked the Rolling Stones number 2 on the list of greatest artists of all time based on just chart success. So, they're still ranked number 4 on Rolling Stone's list of greatest artists of all time. One of the band's biggest successes is that they've been together for almost 60 years. So, I mean, think about that.
Mind-boggling. Every time you see Keith Richards or Mick Jagger doing something, like they were just here in Nashville for their show recently at Nissan Stadium, and they're still...
No, it's hard to imagine. I mean, you don't always see artists that can even play until they're 60, and this band is actually 60. They'll be 60 next year.
The band is 60, not the,
Well,
insane.
They have 30 studio albums, 33 live albums, 29 compilation albums, 121 singles, 32 box sets, 48 video albums, and 77 music videos.
Like, how many songs are they worth? How many songs do they have?
Well, out of all of that, as pieced together as this album was, it's one of the band's best. It's a definite must-own. We have this album in 180-gram audiophile vinyl. We also have it in our collector series at the store in a limited edition 5 LP box set. So check out the Blind Tiger Record Store. We do have a lot of Rolling. Just type in Rolling Stones. You'll see there's plenty there to pick from.
Fall is here, hear the yell. Back to school, ring the bell. Brand new shoes, walking blues, climb the fence, books and pens. I can tell that we are gonna be friends. I can tell that we are gonna be friends. Walk with me, Susie Lee, through the park and by the tree. We will rest upon the ground and look at all the bugs we found. Safely walk to school without a sound. Safely walk to school without a sound.
On July 3rd, 2001, the White Stripes released the group's 3rd studio album, White Blood Cells, on Sympathy for the Record Industry.
I was a sophomore in high school.
On October 22nd, 2021, Sony Legacy celebrated the album's 20th anniversary with a special reissued LP.
Very cool.
The album was recorded in Memphis, Tennessee, and it was produced by frontman Jack White. This was the last album released on the indie label Sympathy. The label was just too small, and it was not equipped for the success that this album had. This is really the record that launched the White Stripes into the stratosphere. It peaked at number 61 on the Billboard 200, and it would end up going platinum. And for a label the size that it was too much for them to keep up with.
They were not ready.
Yeah. The song that we played at the opening was We're Gonna Be Friends. It has become a fan favorite over the years. It's been synced a lot. I think most memorable for me is, in the opening credits of 2004's Napoleon Dynamite.
Yes.
The single off the album that really put the band on the map was a song called Fell in Love with a Girl.
My favorite White Stripes song.
Still many people's favorite White Stripes songs. It went number 12 on the Billboard Alternative Radio chart. It was the group's first radio hit. It also went number 21 on the OCC. It has well over 200 million streams to date. It's how we fell in love with the White Stripes. So here is Fell in Love with a Girl.
bells are beating now.
Critics went nuts over this album. I remember at the time it almost felt like it was a critic-driven album. I think there was even some resistance, like even I had some at first because I was being told
you have
how cool it was.
Because of their other two releases, like building all this anticipation, and then this record comes out. They were the hottest thing.
Well, best of list at Blender, Rolling Stone, Mojo, and Kerrang, they all ranked it in their top 20. NME, Pitchfork, and The Village Voice ranked it in the top 10. Spin had White Blood Cells as the best album of 2001. In 2003, NME ranked it number 20 on its top 100 albums of all time. So everybody was all over this record.
Yep, it's on the 500 greatest albums of all time on Rolling Stone as well, too. It's very far down the list, but it's still there.
Well, obviously the band and Jack White in particular would go on to bigger and better things. But this is the breakout album that made all of that possible. It cemented the band as the primary, revivalist of blues-driven garage punk sound. Bands like The Strokes and The Hives would follow really in many ways on the coattails of this album's success. And they've gone, Strokes in particular, have gone on to create amazing
Massive
albums.
Success.
So we have this in a limited edition Peppermint Pinwheel vinyl. It actually is one of the coolest vinyl that I've seen.
Yeah, if you like peppermints, you'll like this vinyl.
It almost looks like Christmassy, but it's not.
Yeah.
But you could give it for Christmas.
You could. I mean, they are Christmas colors.
Yeah, good luck getting it, though, because we only have a few, and it is definitely out everywhere else. We also have this in 180-gram black, though, so if you want to get the record and you can't get the Peppermint one, it's still an amazing album. We have several other White Stripe albums and Jack White albums in the store, including the double LP Greatest Hits for the White Stripes. On November 12th, 2021, Rhino Records released War, Greatest Hits 2.0 on vinyl. War originally released their Greatest Hits album in 1976, and this expansion covers really 50 years of the band's musical career. War was originally called Eric Burdon and War. Burdon, originally was the lead singer and frontman of the Animals. They released albums between 62 and 68, and they had a lot of hits. Songs like The House of the Rising Sun, We Gotta Get Out of This Place, Sky Pilot, and Bring It On Home to Me. In 1969, record producer Jared Goldstein and Burdon formed the band War. The band fused together rock, funk, R&B, even some of Burdon's psychedelia from the Animals. Originally, other than Burdon, the band was all black. And so, this was the late 60s, getting the Vietnam War. So part of the band's purpose was to challenge racial and cultural barriers. They wanted to speak out against racism, hunger, other issues that were going on in the late 60s.
Spread a message of brotherhood and harmony using instruments and voices to speak out against racism.
Well, the band's first album, released in 1970, was called Eric Burdon Declares War. It featured the hit song Spill the Wine, which charted at number 3 on the Hot 100. They released 5 albums in as many years, and all with successful charting singles. Songs like The Cisco Kid, it went number 2 in 72. Gypsy Man went number 8 in 73. Most of the albums were certified gold. The song that we played at the beginning was called Why Can't We Be Friends, which, is actually kind of funny, but on the show today, we've played Waiting for a Friend by the Stones.
Yep.
We're Gonna Be Friends by the Stripes.
Yep.
And now Why Can't We Be Friends by War.
So good.
That song by War came off the 1975 album of the same name and charted at number 6 on the Hot 100 and number 9 on R&B. It was nominated for a Grammy in 76.
And enjoyed an amazing cover version by Smash Mouth in the early 2000s, I do believe.
The band's biggest song over time, it may not have been when it released, but since its release, it came off that same album. The song went number 7 on the Hot 100. It was number 1 on R&B and number 12 on the OCC. It was also nominated for a Grammy in 76, and it has amassed over 150 million streams and is a classic rock standard. It's the most recognizable song today by War. It's the song Lowrider.
All my friends know the lowrider. The lowrider is a little higher.
War released 18 studio albums, 3 live albums, and 7 compilations. Well, now 8 with this release. They had 60 radio singles. Eric Burdon, he had an amazing career. Along with the Animals and War, he also released solo records.
And I think he was pretty much kind of out of War at the time that, like, the hits like Lowrider and Why Can't We Be Friends.
Well, for that album, so War went on for years without Burdon.
Yes.
He was out in 70. He was out on that 75 album, Why Can't We Be Friends? So both the songs we played, he was not part of the band.
He's not
for
a
that.
vocalist on those.
But he did come back in 76, but then they called it Eric Burdon and the War. Both names were carrying significant weight at that point, so they kept them both in. The Greatest Hits 2.0 really does have their bigger time-tested songs. It's a great way to have War in your collection without, feeling like you've got to track down a run of over 18 albums worth of music.
Yeah, don't do that. Just grab this one.
And it is a double vinyl that we have, so you can pick that one up in the store. Well, that wraps up another episode of the Blind Tiger Record Club on air and our discussion of the Blind Tiger Record Club's November Spotlight album and new store editions. We hope that you heard something tonight that makes you want to explore more music. It's a journey that we hope never ends for any of you out there listening. If you want to find out more about any of the albums that we discussed today, go to blindtigerrecordclub.com. You can read more about all the records that we talked about on this show. You can also learn how to become a member. It really is the best way to grab up albums like this that will likely not be available long after release. With a club membership, you secure a copy every month. We have so many great releases, many available in limited edition or color or audio file variants. So go to blindtigerrecordclub.com today and make sure that you don't miss out on any of this great new music. You can also check out our Black Friday sales all this month. We have holiday albums that are marked down 10%. This past Friday, we just announced the Blind Tiger Record Club now carries cassette tapes. They are also all marked down 10% this week only. So keep checking back all month for new items that we're going to be putting on sale throughout Christmas. We want to thank our sponsor again, 85 Supply. Remember, they can help you with everything from printed t-shirts to custom products. You can get all your merchandise service needs met with one company from design to print. Listeners of this show, both on air and the podcast, get 5% off your first order. All you need to do is mention Blind Tiger Record Club via email or over the phone with your rep. The whole process is very simple. Go to 85supply.com or email info@85supply.com for more information. Don't forget to check out our podcast-only episodes. We have a new LP interview episode coming up November 22nd with Andrea Von Kampen. We discuss her career, her new album, That Spell, so be sure to look for that. We originally announced that this show was going to air in October, but scheduling issues kept us from being able to air that show yet. She was an absolute delight, and it's a really entertaining interview. It is a podcast-only episode, so make sure you check out the podcast. It's available on all podcast platforms, including Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and many others. You can also go to blindtagrecordclub.com and click on the podcast link and stream directly from our website. You can listen to recasts of this show and all the shows that have aired on Lightning 100 as well. So if you missed part of this show or you just want to listen again, just find the blindtagrecordclub.com podcast and you will see 4 seasons of archive shows. Our next episode on air on Lightning 100 is November 29th at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time after the 615. We'll be discussing the B.T.R.C. December Records of the Month. Please follow the podcast, subscribe, like us, leave reviews and comments, tell your friends about the show. Nothing really helps us more than taking the time to let people know about the show. You can stay up to date on all that we're doing by signing up to our email list at the website. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook, but most importantly, keep coming back. Lastly, thank you to Lightning 100 for always supporting local art, events, and even shows like ours. Until next time, keep the wax spinning.